All right, what is going on, guys? It is time for another episode of the Chasing Waypoints podcast. That is right. Episode number 34. 34 deep on this one, and this time around, we've got a pretty cool story. And someone new to talk to. We are doing another in the Bivouac this time around. And today's guest caught my eye on Instagram. Was checking out, cruising the Chasing Waypoints feed, and this guy's Instagram came across, and the name kind of caught my attention. CouchToDakar. So I figured, I'm going to reach out to this guy. And I started doing some more research on him and just checking it out, and he's got a pretty cool story. Has been got a really good website, everything organized. I've been seeing his following his social media and his training and everything that he is doing, and I'm like, all right, this is going to be a fun ride. Interesting fact that I am still, we're going to talk about it, even though it has not as much to do with rally, but former Cannonball record holder from New York to LA. We're going to be talking to Dave Black today. So he's got the link in his inbox and just waiting for him to jump on in on this one. But if you guys have been listening, so we started off this party, episode 32 with Jimmy Lewis, talking a little bit about his classes and all that stuff. I've now got an email with his new class schedule and stuff, so looking to set some time aside for that one. Then we had Paul Neff right behind him last week. Who am I kidding? I'm recording this on the same week, so I talked to them a couple days ago. But the cool part is we got a lot of really cool guests lined up. I got my little post-it note here off the side. Was talking to Gnarly Dave. He's like, hey, what about this guy? And I'm going, yeah, you're absolutely right. So we've got a pretty good crowd coming. So I hope you guys are willing tuning in, checking out the website and all that. So I think it'll be pretty cool. Well, anyway, speaking of which, I just saw the alert. Turn this party down here. Dave, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Haha. Ooh, look at that. Super clear audio. So I was just doing the intro. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fantastic.
Very nice. Where are you located? I know you're back east somewhere, but...
Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay. There we go. Very nice. So, okay, first question before we get into any of the rally stuff. Cannonball record holder.
Yes. Yeah, that was 2013.
Uh-huh.
I was a kid, who grew up, 12 years old. Cannonball Run movie came out, mm-hmm. And that just, that and Burt Reynolds, the whole thing back in the day with Smokey and the Bandit, just, really resonated with me. I was telling this friend of mine, I said, I want to kind of host some kind of a new form of the Cannonball. And this guy, took me aside and said, I'm actually going to set that record. And I was just like, you got to be kidding, really? And he's like, yeah. He goes, I'm getting a car prepped right now. And I realized he was really serious. I just said, hey, who's your co-driver? And he was like, well, I already have a guy who's going to do it with me. Well, 6 months later, he calls me up and says, hey, you know what? I'm doing the Cannonball this weekend. And I said, well, do you need a spotter or someone to help? And he goes, actually, I need a co-driver. So, I ended up writing, co-driving in the record-breaking 2013 record with Ed Bolian and Dan Wong, who was kind of our spotter person in the back of the car. And we did it in 28 hours and 50 minutes and broke a record that had been standing for about 6 years at that time. And then our record held until just last year, until a guy named Arnie Toman and Doug Tabbitt. They handily broke it, and then it just went crazy with COVID. Everyone started running these records because the interstates were completely clear because of COVID, and the record now is just ridiculous and it will be impossible to break.
Yeah, getting down into under the 20s. I don't think they could push that far.
No, it's getting in the under 20, the 25-hour range now. But it's going to be really hard to ever get there because back at last May, the year, I guess, COVID, the first year of COVID, the interstates were completely empty and people could just get out there and go as fast as they wanted to. But anyway, yeah, that's been sort of my weird community since then, is this idea of these long distance drives and these rallies, and one of them that I just recently did, let's say I came out of retirement for, was a bandit run, which was to go from Atlanta to Texarkana for a 6-pack of Coors and then back. And the co-driver who broke our record, he and I actually did it together in a Porsche 911 and actually set that record. So nice. It's kind of a weird little group that we're a part of, but it's pretty awesome at the same time.
So just random, let's go grab a 6-pack beer run.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep.
So how did we go from Cannonball and the Bandit run to Dakar?
Okay. So, really right after the Cannonball record, I went through this period of, wow, this was a childhood dream of mine to do this. And it just serendipitously happened that I ended up co-driving, with someone who had really prepared and gotten themselves ready. And, and the way he described that was that this idea got into his head and he couldn't get rid of it. Well, for a number of years after that, I kind of was in the same state of like, what do I have any more goals? Am I done? I mean, I'm getting, pushing close to my 50s in these years. And, it just kind of, I hit this point where between some business failures and a lot of other things just in my personal life just started kind of colliding at the same time. I'd say probably about 3 years ago, I just hit this kind of rock bottom point. And, I was just kind of at this point open to some idea of something that I needed to do. Now, the one hobby I had during this whole time was riding my KLR up in the mountains. And, I did the first half of the Trans-America Trail, and I just love spending hours a day on the motorcycle. So, it was interesting because I did the first half of the TAT and I thought, you know what? I really dislike this motorcycle I'm on. The KLR is a cool bike. I mean, it's cool, and it's in kind of the how would I put it? It's kind of your faithful companion pet. Like it's always there. It's very loyal. It's not going to let you down, but it's just not going to do much for you. But I started thinking, what's the most perfect bike to do the TAT, and I started looking. At various permutations of what you could do with a smaller bike. And, you'd like to have a nice rally tower with your navigation, because when I did the TAT, I had my GPS up fairly high so that I could kind of zoom in on the road and almost drive to the GPS line, while at the same time having kind of an overview map to the side. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to need a rally tower. And, and all of a sudden rally bikes started popping up, and, and I was looking at this and going, what are these guys racing in, with these bikes? What's going on up there? And I started deep diving into a little bit of, what's rally. And I ended up on a rally forum, on Facebook, and, started studying up on, and it just sort of intrigued me. I didn't realize that they were doing this without GPS or any type of maps, and just got super excited. And then I got turned on to some of Manuel Lucchese's Rebel X videos, where he's building up these bikes, and just think, oh, this would be great. And also Lyndon Poskett, same thing. And so, I started playing the PS4 Dakar game and learning roadbook navigation, and it just captured everything that I seem to love, which is this kind of idea of long distance racing, mixed with navigation and geography, and just kind of the way my brain works seemed to really resonated with it. And as I'm doing this idea kind of got into my head about Dakar, because it was around Christmas time and things were starting to ramp up, and I just was like, man, do I have enough time in my life to be able to pursue something like that? And it was a really scary thought at that moment because I'm trying to reconcile my age and where I was in life with this idea that there might be some things I can't do anymore. Mm-hmm. And I posted a message to a group on Facebook, a rally riders group. And I just said, hey, would this be possible for someone like me? And in a way, I kind of wanted people to discourage me. And, everyone started encouraging me. There were some guys who were in their 60s doing it and everything. And I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, what am I going to do with this?
No, guys, you're not helping.
You're not helping. I want to be convinced not to do this because it was already kind of one of these things that was starting to take hold. But on the other hand, I've been kind of asking all along for this thing to have a goal again. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, no, this can't be the goal. This can't be this. And so, on my website, I say, yes, I can, damn it. And it was, yes, I can, damn it. It's yes, I can. Damn it. So yes, I can. So that's sort of, it's the inflection on that. That's, I can't get it. I couldn't get it out of my head. And, and the funny thing was, at that point, I decided that, if I just start to break down everything that I would need to know how to do this, it could, maybe in that process, I would find something that wouldn't work. I had high blood pressure, overweight, it's like all these little things like, well, you know what, each of these things is addressable, really bad knees. And, through that whole process, like, I basically deconstructed everything that needed to be done till the point I had, sort of, let's call it a readiness criteria for Dakar. And then a set of steps that would lead to that. And then kind of, prior to that is sort of a preliminary set of steps, which, involve kind of getting a baseline of where my riding is, where my, what are my, skills, what's my health, what's, my financial resources and kind of all these other little pieces, mental toughness, and so, I kind of made a roadmap for this first year to kind of probe into all of that. And I wanted to make sure I did some training that, prevented me from developing some bad habits. I'd been riding an adventure bike for years and, couldn't tell if I was a good rider or not. I like to go really fast, but, I did quickly learn that I wasn't, as skilled as I thought I was, but, so that's kind of where the idea was born. And it just kind of took me over at that point. And it's funny because, I was listening to your interview with Jimmy, and he mentioned how people kind of come out of the blue with these emails saying that they want to do Dakar. And confession time, I was one of them.
I was going to say, as soon as you said that, I'm going, he was one of the emails.
I'm one of the emails, yeah. But the funny thing about it was I was sitting at a friend's house. We were having drinks, and I shared the goal with this couple. And I said, I want to do this really, really hard race, and but I really need to put something out there that forces me to kind of take the next steps in this process, start addressing health issues, all these other things. And so let's see. I need to get better at desert riding. Where do I find this? And I Googled up, I think, desert motorcycle riding. It came up with Jimmy Lewis. I read his bio. I'm like, oh my God, this guy sounds perfect. Yeah. So it's like drunk. I wrote this email to him like, hey, Jimmy, I want to do Dakar. And, and of course, of everyone else who was trying to really be encouraging, he's the first person who kind of, he threw some cold water on me, and said, hey, you know what? Those guys are really skilled. And, and that was actually what I needed to hear. Cause I had been a former snow skier, and so I was like, I can go out there today and I could ski all day just fine because I grew up with those skills. I don't have that kind of background in motorcycling. And so I realized that I really need to come up with sort of a training plan that's going to advance me faster than just someone who recreationally has been riding their entire life. I need to really do this right the first time out and develop the good habits. So once I put Jimmy on the calendar, I'm like, well, I need to prepare for Jimmy. So how do I do that? And I started working backwards again. Okay, get the knees looked at, get some physical therapy, get into the gym, and get, let's get some early training. And so I actually started with trials. And so with that, that honed in the balance, and bike neutrality better than anything. And so when I showed up to Jimmy, I was actually in much better shape than I thought I was going to be.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. And that, you haven't heard it yet, but I did, there's another episode coming, for this weekend, and the whole trials thing was brought up. So how did you get onto the trials? Like, where did you discover, okay, maybe I should ride a trials bike or
it's a kind of a good question. I think it might have been actually watching Lyndon Poskett and him talking about his childhood starting out as trials. And I also think I was looking at a lot of the different riders, and I saw people like Elias Sanz, who, top trials rider, and just kind of, again, breaking down all of these pieces into the core components. It's okay. What's the quickest way to learn balance? And I knew that being on a smaller bike would improve me. And then I kind of thought, well, how about a really small bike? And it didn't disappoint. And so I kind of reached out to the local trials community and found a coach who had a bike that I could rent. And did a day with him, Ray Peters, and I believe he's the team manager for Beta's national team, and went out to his house, spent the day with him. And he by 3:30, I was ready to go into the fetal position, exhausted. It was interesting because he said, "You're going to ride until you're done." And I'm like, and then there was a point where I was actually doing really well, and then I wasn't. And he said, "Okay, yep, you're done. You're broken." So, and then I did 2 more days at Trials Training Center. They have a annual event called the Training Days, and it's you go to different little stations in the wood with 15 other people, and they'll teach traction, or another place will teach hill climbs, another place will teach logs, another place will teach boulders, and it's fantastic. 2 days again will just absolutely destroy you because it's just so physical, but I did that for those 2 days, and it's trials is great, and it's one of these things where I keep wanting to go back to do it. I don't really have the kind of funds to be able to buy the bike yet, so I need to try to figure out ways to rent, and so I hosted a day up at Trials Training Center for all the adventure riders so that I could get another day on the bike, and using their rentals. So it's I've been kind of trying to do everything I can to just develop skills as fast as possible.
Mm-hmm. And this is because have you picked a date? Like, are you going for 2022? Are you?
No.
Okay.
No. I'm trying to be a little bit more, somewhat realistic about this. And I still think that maybe I might be stretching it, when the more information I get. But I'm shooting for 2024. Okay. Which will give me, and the other thing I've also signed up for was to do a 6-day training with Lyndon in Morocco. And that's unfortunately been canceled because of COVID. It's hard to get into the country. And right about the time that they said that this next session was going to be canceled, it was when the COTA rally popped up. And I kind of was like, you know what? I bet Morocco's going to get canceled. It kind of, the writing was on the wall at that point. And I said, you know what? I'm going to sign up for COTA. Nice. and just go ahead and just force my own hand. And again, these early initiatives that I've been doing have been just to establish sort of my baseline as to, where I'm at and then what do I need to do next. And I think 2024 is potentially doable because I would like to be able to do Sonora next spring, or this coming up spring, and then the following year would be the Sonora. That would be the let's call it the Road to Dakar qualifier that could get me in for 2024. There you
go. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and there's definitely, so I've already heard of the road books and for the COTA rally. And they're actually really good, that they're good books. So that should be a really good, experience. Cause I've seen your videos already. So you're already are you writing your own road books right now, or what do you?
Yeah, I'm trying to. I've got Rally Navigator. I've been starting I'm actually working on a book right now for the North Georgia mountains. I mean, the thing is I know these roads like the back of my hand anyway. So I think what I might do is try to somehow randomize these. And I've been trying to come up with a way to do it. And I've done this with just a local route near my house, which I use a mall parking lot to do masked waypoints. And, so, it's like, hey, I've got a straight line, but it goes through Macy's. I'm not going to be riding through Macy's as much.
Generally frowned upon.
It's generally frowned upon, but just think how fun that would be.
Oh, yeah.
But I've been out there, and what I'll do is I have a GPS tracker that I use when I do my practice laps I have a little turn track near my house as well, and I'll on Lit Pro and just compare lap times and things and work on corners and so I'll just use that tracker and I'll overlay it with my original route that I did and trying to use the mall parking lot with cap and headings. And the thing to me is it's almost more valuable for me to be doing this more frequently on something that's close and silly like a mall parking lot than it would be to only be able to do it maybe once or twice a month up in the North Georgia mountains, which I actually, you have these long stretches of roads with not a lot of variability. You can't really, change things up and add different instructions. So it's like I can get a lot more cognitive load going by having quicker instructions in a shorter space and just keep trying to refine it each time.
Yeah.
And again, I'm making this up as I go. This is, I'm trying to take an engineering approach to this and do the best I can with something that I know nothing about. And true to me, really, the Coda Rally is going to be where everything starts. It's where I'm going to learn what I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and that, you listened to the podcast with Jimmy, and it was like one of those, for me, it was the same as like you just have to do it. And exactly like what you're saying, like, the road books, if you make them yourself, you kind of already know where you're going. There's a layer of pressure that's been removed because of that. And once somebody else writes it, then you really don't know where you're going. So now there's a whole added layer of like, okay, this note, like, is this note really where I need it to be? Or, am I on the right track? So it adds a whole nother layer, but versus doing, nothing but just, but out there getting lost or coming up with a lot of short instructions, small road books, beginning road books. I don't think there's anything better than that,
Yeah, I'd like to figure out a way to get a little bit better here in the East Coast. It's just very hard. You don't have open spaces. You don't have, kind of these crazy trails through the desert, for example, that have different intersections, every 100 yards or something like that, where you can actually try to confuse yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I could definitely see that. Yeah. Out here in SoCal, it's like, all right, well, I'll just go out to the desert, lay down a GPS track, and then I can make a road book in, 45 minutes after that,
Right.
But over there, if you don't have that area, one thing I had thought, and I don't know what your thoughts are, is what about doing like city streets? Like getting into a town and basically make a road book. And yeah, even if you are running circles, but at least the roads are well marked, should be.
Right.
But you're going by distances at that point.
Yeah, and part of the road book that I made that involves the mall parking lot has a lot of interesting twists and turns on the roads getting there and coming back home. It literally starts in front of my apartment building and ends in my apartment building. So I mean, the leasing office watches me come blasting in. I do one of these Jimmy Lewis braking drills right in front of the office, and there's something to be said that even with me knowing what the routes are, there's something about me wanting to keep looking and validating and verifying that it's working. And there was weirdly one day where GPS in general was kind of off. And even on my phone, I started running my phone, Rally Navigator on my phone, and its numbers were off. Mm-hmm. And it's just a weird, I don't know if it was atmospheric phenomena or something, but it was really, really unsettling to see something that I had run a number of times and had it be almost perfect, have it not be. And so that kind of put me into a state of mind of, wow, what's this really going to be like when I'm on someone else's road book? This the way I'm feeling right now is unsettling. So I'm so looking forward to actually getting to do this. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, and that's and once you start writing it, yeah. I remember the first road book that I did was, the typical, I picked a line and go, okay, this makes sense. And then, yeah, okay, look, this note shows a hill, and okay, yeah, this looks like a hill. This looks like the right way. It must be the right way. And you get to the top and it's like, okay, well, the odometer's a little bit off, but not that far off. So you push a little bit further. And next thing you know, you're like, okay, that was it for the parts that actually line up. Nothing lines up anymore. So you fast forward, I fast forwarded a few notes and I'm looking at it going, okay, I'm supposed to be on some electrical towers here by about this point. And I look over and the electrical towers are 2 hills over. I'm going, okay, well, Houston, we really have a problem here.
Oh, wow.
So
it sounds kind of fun though, right?
Yeah. Well, until you realize you're on an adventure bike and you got to go back down this hill that you just climbed. And something I've learned about adventure bikes with a lot of horsepower is they will climb some hills. No problem. But like anything heavy, the heavier it is, the faster it goes downhill. So
yeah.
I think I
that's awesome.
Need some trials, some trials experience for that kind of stuff. So we talked about the bike a little bit, but what bike did you end up settling on?
I got the Husqvarna 501 FE 501, and that was an absolute miracle to be able to find one at this point.
Crazy.
Once I signed up for the Coda, immediately started doing a search on Cycle Trader, which usually has new inventory, and searched within 500 miles. There was a couple bikes in North Carolina, and I called about one, and they said, well, that's coming in August. The other person I called, they said, oh, that sold this morning. And so I just assumed that Woolies, I would assume that Woolies, which is my local shop here that I work with, they, I go to their website just to get the phone number, and I went ahead and searched, and sure enough, they had one. They had just put it in inventory, and it had not updated Cycle Trader yet. And so I was like, oh my gosh, called them up and I said, please hold that bike. I'll be in the next hour, and put some money on it, and then, proceeded to try to, come up with the rest of money that I don't have to actually get it in time. And then as soon as I'm doing that transaction, I'm making calls to MotoMinded and to Chris and to get a tower. And he said, oh, are you on? I just sent out an email this morning to about 20 people who are on the waiting list for our, navigation tower. Were you on that list? And I said, no, but I need a tower.
I can pretend to be on that list.
I know, right? So I just said, well, here, take my credit card number and let's go. And so I got that ordered. Very luckily, kind of flew in under the gun on that one. And then, next call was to Matt with Rally Moto Shop to get the rest of the components all ordered, and just that credit card was just on fire by the end of the day. So
that's why you picked the one with the highest cash back. So at least it feels like
I wish I was that smart. I did not make that.
Just send it.
Just send it.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's Dave Ramsey would use that in his when it comes to spending. Just send it.
Yeah. It's all right. Deal with it later.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. So so Husky 501. We went with the MotoMinded tower. We talked to Matt about the RMS over at Rally Moto Shop. What did you go with? The F2R?
So F2R road book, whatever that latest 780 or 820 or whatever it is. And then I went with the RNS GPS Trip Masters.
Nice.
With a pair of those. Got a couple extra plates because I think during COTA we're gonna there's gonna be the rally comp is gonna need a mount point and some antenna mount points and things. So got that all built up. The best advice that I had was from a friend of mine who had built up some rally bikes himself, and he said, build it up yourself. Make sure that every single wire, every single inch of that thing, top to bottom. And I mean that tower has been apart, at least a dozen times at this point. So it's really nice to be familiar with it, so that if I have to troubleshoot it, I'll know what I'm doing.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, the tower's absolutely tough. Like I saw it at Sonora Rally. Take a couple of hits, really good hits, and survived it. But that doesn't account for, the electrical connection that might have gotten bumped or whatever it is. So yeah, yeah, absolutely. Know all of it. So nice. And then fuel range, did you add tanks to this thing, or what did you do?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, and again, in this sort of turn of just good luck, and this has been kind of a pattern with this whole effort, I don't know if it's just my mindset about this, but I've been really feeling very fortunate and grateful to all these sort of things that are happening. But right now it's apparently very difficult to get a large tank. Mm-hmm. And it just happened that my shop had a IMS 4.5 gallon tank in stock. So, and they're like, yeah, we can't get these right now, but we have this one. Do you want it? And I'm like, yes. Yeah. So I was able to take delivery of the bike, very first day with the 4.5 gallon tank on it. And, I basically rode the bike around the parking lot a couple times, and took it home, put it in my apartment, and started building up the rest of it.
Nice. All right. So now you've got the rally bike.
It looks and feels like a rally bike, and I'm actually loving it. Once I finally got it up into the mountains, into its element, it's funny because it has, I felt like I was still in my KLR only because the tank size and the tower and everything, it just sort of had this presence and just a general heavy feel that felt a lot like an adventure bike. And the first road that I took it on was one of the gnarlier roads that we have up in North Georgia, and just started out on this thing. And I mean, night and day difference between that and the KLR. I have some video. You can kind of hear me going, "Oh my God, this is not my KLR. This is amazing." And I mean, just to feel like I have traction, that suspension just holds the ground. Even the TKC 80 tires were, and it was sloppy that day. I mean, they were still really holding well. And so I think I've got, I think once I put the final tires on for the rally, it's just going to even be that much better. So I'm looking forward to this. I mean, I feel like it's come together at this point. I think it's, I just need to get these new tires on, ride it some, and shake those out a little bit. But, that's a scary thing for me with this race, is that it's you get the bike all ready, and then you're like, well, hey, I'm going to be in Colorado a week early. Do I do the Alpine loop, or, do I just preserve the bike? And I think my instinct is to preserve the bike and maybe just go hiking.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. Do some other event or something or some other kind of activity. And yeah, I'm with you, because you want the tires to be prime. You want everything to be, spotless, clean and ready. And yeah, I hear you.
I mean, I could live with myself, having it break the first day of the rally. I cannot live with myself if it broke the day before the rally.
Yeah. Two completely different situations. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The story's a little different. Yeah. I did this and did that. Yeah.
But I mean, I'm still, there's still some things that I need to try to get for it. It's, I need to get a clutch pack. There's just things I want to carry, I think, just in case things go, south. But again, it's been hard to actually get parts.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been, the same. I've been looking at bikes and exactly what you've experienced. It's really crazy. And then not only that, but then you look at, I wish I had used dirt bikes right now to sell, because the market is just crazy. You're paying like $500 less than a brand new bike, maybe $1,000. It's the value of used bikes right now. The ones that people want, right? I mean, the 500s, the 501s, the 450s, things like that. Yeah. It's crazy.
My KLR, I sold for what I paid for it 7 years ago.
That's crazy. So you basically rode it for free for 7 years.
Pretty much.
Yeah. And that's, it's interesting. You were talking about that, is that the KLRs really do have a bit of a like I call it as a cult following. It's crazy.
Oh, they do, and it was fun being part of the forums. It's just kind of the bike that everybody loves to. I mean, you have a love-hate relationship with it, and doing the Transamerica Trail, I kind of realized that, this thing, it just is like a tractor. It just chugs all day, and this engine is a chugga, and you're never really able to. I mean, I would try to get on it and things, but it just isn't a bike that exudes a lot of fun. Where this 501, oh my gosh, I mean, my times just casual, what I would consider casual riding through these twisty Appalachian gravel roads. I mean, I'm 10 miles an hour faster on average, and I was like, I was questioning, is this the bike, or is it all the training I've had? Because I've had some pretty amazing training so far between Jimmy, and I actually went to a class that called Corner Spin with a guy named Aaron Stevenson out here. That he actually worked with a guy named Peter Wolfie Vilcek, who's a Dakar racer. Yeah. So I guess Peter had contacted Aaron and said, Aaron, I want to, be able to spin the back wheel of my bike out and be able to, turn, drift around turns and things. And so this class, they put you on small little Honda 150, mid-sized dirt bikes with street tires, and you do flat track. And you do that for 2 days, and you just wipe out continuously. But you learn what it feels like to get that back wheel, to walk out on you. And I mean, so again, this back to the whole idea of, what skills should I start to really try to hone, between the trials, time with Jimmy, and then this, I feel like I'm advancing okay, but there's still just so much experience that I haven't had. And that made itself clear just Saturday when, I found myself in a really gnarly section that required some serious, commitment towards just blasting up this rock face. And I was like, okay, you know what, I need to just have a little more confidence. So
yeah, and this was and I think so this is the videos and the stuff that you were posting on Instagram this weekend, no? Or
yes,
a few days ago.
Yes.
Yeah, that looked muddy. That was that looked pretty bad.
Yeah, it's pretty. It's a gnarly road in North Georgia called Flatland Road, which is quite ironic. But it was, there's a lot of line selection that's coming at you really quickly, and it was interesting because I ended up losing my camera on this, and I rode all the way back down and then repeated it. And on the second time up, I was actually dropping the bike a couple times beforehand. I was kind of getting off camber, losing traction, slipping the back wheel out, and just kind of really just turned into kind of a sloppy mess. But that one hard section that scared me so much, I was able to hit every single time. And so it was no longer, that part was fine. It's just all the other stuff. But, when your heart rate gets up, the balance just goes to crap. And that was, the second day of Jimmy's school, he had this drill that, kind of start, stop with their hands raised. And I was, Jimmy was, doing it, and he just kept on stopping me. And I finally gave up to him. He's like, he goes, hey dude, your brain's broken. You need to go get a drink or something and, get some sugar in you. So, I'm realizing that, and there's a video, you'll actually see me look at my watch. I'm actually looking at my heart rate to just sort of see if I can get it back down into a range that I'm like, okay, now I'm at a range that I can get my balance back and kind of do the trials maneuvers of, hop up on the pegs, get myself going again.
Yeah. Interesting. So now that I'm talking to you and hearing it after talking to Paul and all these guys in the classes, like there's a lot to learn on what he specifically, because he broke it down in the podcast. There's only a handful of things that, like it says, it's either traction and balance. And so it sounds like that really does make a big difference.
I think it makes a huge difference. The trials really did help. And it just, I also use a balance board, and, I nearly started laughing in his class because the first thing you do in Jimmy's class before you go out on the bikes is you stand on a balance board, and he feels that accelerates everybody's balance. It activates their balance center in their brain so that they start thinking in terms of balance and, versus waiting 2 or 3 hours into the day before people finally get their balance on the bike. So, I thought that was kind of interesting how we started with that.
Yeah.
Not to give away any Jimmy secrets.
No. I've seen, it's in one of the videos. You can see, like, it was like in one of his recap videos that you can see everybody standing on balance boards. And it's been like, I've seen a couple of other commercials, of course, the Instagram thing. Like right now that I'm talking about balance boards, when I go to check my Instagram here in about 20 minutes, it's going to be nothing but balance boards on there. And I will literally screenshot it because I'm sure I'm going to have an ad from there. But I've seen it also, like the balance board setups. Then also, like, I've seen people with handlebars, like a type of handlebar simulation to also help with the balance. Like, we talked about it in the episode. It's almost like you see all of these things, like you see, okay, balance. Yeah, I get it. But it sounds like once you get into the class, it's a whole nother level of that.
Yeah, and it was interesting because this weekend was my goal. On Saturday was to test where's my stamina, especially on this new bike. And the thing that Jimmy focuses on, besides balance and traction, of course, is some of the very low level fundamentals of everything. But he focuses on riding efficiently. And being able to handle, long days, on the pegs. Well, that was what my goal was yesterday, was to just stay on the pegs. I was up in the saddle, probably maybe sat back down for no more than 5 minutes over a 3-hour period, just stayed up on the pegs. And, when you break, I'm rolling back onto my heels practically and staying neutral so that my arms are never taking any hit at all. And then same with, once I start to accelerate, I'll just lean into it and go ahead and get on the gas. And, the thing that's with some of this, there's another body position that I'm kind of picking up, I guess, from motocross, which I took another lesson, just a half day clinic with Ezra Lusk, and just getting your body position, disconnecting your hips. You see Ryan Hughes talk about this a lot of times, but you get into that attack position in motocross. Well, that's really because you're on the gas really hard. And that's really the only position that you can be in without leaning straight forward, and this way you kind of disconnect yourself. So, but the thing that Jimmy really taught was to just sort of hold your position. And like when you go into a whoop section in the desert, and he had us do this, just let the bike suspension hit these things. Don't try to float by doing a squat, you try to float over these things. Just let the bike hit it and use your throttle to kind of modulate how your wheel comes back into the next, comes over the top of the whoop. Those were the types of things that I just tried to work on continuously on Saturday and just remain as efficient as possible. And, I felt pretty good by the end of the day. I wasn't too exhausted. So, and I'm happy to know that I don't really ever get arm pump either. And I think that's, again, a result of, trials and, just remaining super neutral on the bike.
Mm-hmm. Well, and they, it's interesting because they do, like when I worked at BMW Motorcycles, one of the guys that was there used to have a riding school, and they always talked about, it's like, no pressure. Your hands should not hurt. Your palms should not hurt. It's, if they are, it's because you're putting too much weight on them, and that's on a street bike. Now you throw the dirt into it and taking hits, but it's like it's an easier said than done kind of deal.
Correct. Yeah, there's definitely a timing issue on it. And when you get tired also, it's even harder. I did a trials day on a 4-stroke rented Montesa. And by the end of the day, it was just decelerating and just being too tired to kind of get my body back into the position. And so my arms just started taking the hit every single time I decelerated. I wasn't even using the brakes at this point, and it was starting to clobber my arms. And, so yeah, it's getting that timing right so that you accelerate and you lean into it right at the right time. And I think, again, it's, bike familiarity, and just time and practice. And that's really with in the Appalachians, you have just endless, tight, twisty curves through these mountains. And it's all on gravel. And, so you're continually breaking in, and trying to come out of it, so you're always trying to remain neutral on the pegs the whole time and just and limit any kind of a hit to your arms. Yeah. So it was a fun day. It was long.
Yeah. And I can imagine. So something that I had been wondering about too is like, right. There's a couple guys that have been looking at, that have reached out about beginning bikes, and I've mentioned it across a couple of shows now, but jumping on the 501 from the KLR. Now, I know the KLR's got a lot of torque. I mean, the thing is a tractor. I mean, it's almost like diesel, and hell, they even make diesel conversions for them. But compared to the 501, the horsepower of the 501 and how that feels, I mean, how was that for you?
Well, okay. So when I first got my KLR, I had the 15 tooth sprocket on, and it was, let's see, was it 15 or 4? I think it was the 15 tooth. And I actually dropped it back down later, and it smoothed out the entire bike. But before that, it had some torque and it had some pull, but it was never anything violent because it's just such an underpowered, 32 horsepower engine. And maybe the specs say 38, but I think I'm being kind by saying probably 32. And then you load it down with, all the guards and everything else. And, it becomes a 450 pound bike at that point, so it's the KLR is such a great bike for anyone just wanting to get started in adventure riding. And that's exactly what I did. I just wanted to do the Trans-America Trail, and I bought the bike, and, it took me a few years before I finally did that. But, the 501, I mean, it's very smooth on the low end, but you can really get on it in the mid range and higher end. I've gotten that front wheel up very easily, just with the throttle, where, usually if the only time I'd ever gotten the KLR to lift a little bit was just to really rev it up and pop that clutch. So, it's the 50. I don't know. It was interesting because, when I took Jimmy's class, I was on a 350, and it was fantastic. It just seemed dull. And, I was, even early into, proper dirt bike riding, it still felt like it was a good solid bike, but it didn't really excite me. I thought that maybe the 501 would at least be, in its own weird way, a little bit more fun. It just feels a little heavier, and than the 350, I'd say. Definitely a lot more power, but the suspension and everything, it's an entirely different bike than the KLR. And it feels like it's on rails. And I, but my other bike that I have is a KTM 300XC, which, that's, night and day difference. That is, that bike just evokes a sense of just love. I mean, that's
And the XC is the 2-stroke, or no?
It's the the 2-stroke with the linkage suspension versus the XCW, which has sort of a wide lower gear range for kind of hard enduro, and it has the PDS the PDS suspension. This has linkage, which makes it better for things like motocross, hare scramble, woods racing, versus kind of the slower speed gnarly stuff.
Yeah, gotcha. And it's interesting because a lot of people like the 2-stroke craze right now. And I don't know if it's maybe just looking into it, but it seems like they have a really strong following again on the 2-stroke hard enduro type stuff. Is there a lot of that kind of riding over by you?
Tons. I mean, that's kind of really what's popular right now. I mean, I think our proximity to Trials Training Center, Tennessee Knockout was just a few weekends ago. We've got a kind of that Chattanooga community up there is really interesting. And if I could move, I would love to live up in that area, because some of the motocross, I'm not motocross, just motorcycling, the trails, everything up there is apparently just amazing. So, it's, we have a lot of woods riders. We have a lot of, racing, but it feels to me like people are leaning more towards like the XCW for harder enduro. Another group, the Southeast Extreme Riders Association, is kind of turning into this bigger group. There's a lot of local hard enduro races. Hard enduro just seems to be really becoming popular in this area down here, and it's we don't have like a District 37 with desert hare scrambles. So we have gnarly creek beds and nasty rocks and everything else. So I think this part of the country is going to start leaning a little bit more towards hard enduro.
Yeah. Well, in a lot of tree density, to me, like riding in the trees and that kind of stuff, I don't know how that is there, but it just seems like a lot of fun, but you're inches away from having a horrible day. So is how I see that.
I mean, my background was mountain biking and racing, actually. So back in the early 2000s, that's and again, this is a little bit of where my kind of everything kind of went south for me, is that I had to move, my business, I moved overseas, and then just my health kind of, I stopped racing, my health kind of went down, and just all of but the mountain biking had been kind of a constant in my life, and the racing was fun. And so zigzagging through the trees and the woods. And, of course, when there were times that I'd hit trees with my handlebars and go launching off. Fortunately, I've not done that on my motorcycle yet, but, it feels very familiar when I'm on the two-stroke doing that. It just feels like a little bit heavier mountain bike, especially being a two-stroke. You don't have engine braking. So you end up just, really kind of being able to coast down into hills and maintain your momentum. The woods riding here is just amazing.
Yeah. And do you feel, and this is, so I'll ask your opinion on this, because this is something that I've been doing. So I'm hearing more about trials bikes, right? And trials bikes is a skill building bike. But then, like I follow my good friend Travis from Every Single Sunday that does a lot of that hard enduro stuff. And he's traveling around the U.S., riding these different trails, but it's on a two-stroke. And so then I start to think, well, maybe a two-stroke small bike like that is actually a good, because of the lack of engine braking and the weight of it, that maybe it is a good kind of skills bike versus, like a trials bike, or, what would you do? What would you have?
Yeah, that's really where kind of, with limited funds, I'm a IT system administrator. Can't have every bike that I want. So, that was actually what I was thinking was, a two-stroke dirt bike would be maybe the kind of bike I could use as a skills bike. And that's what the 300XC was all about, was just something I could use for developing skills. And I will say that it's still a really big bike compared to a trials bike. The problem is that trials is something that if you're doing it, it's worth the investment for the bike. If you're using a trials bike like I was, which is to just do it for practice, I mean, I think what I'm going to keep doing is just hosting training days at the Trials Training Center and being able to have access to their rental bikes, because they only rent bikes when they do training sessions. And if someone can put together a class, then there you go. But I like to do it maybe, I'd say once a quarter. It'd be good to do it maybe for a day. So I don't know. I mean, but on the flip side of it, it'd be really nice to have a trials bike to just go out behind my apartment where there's just sort of some open land and set up some logs and just practice skills all day. It's a ton of fun, but when I look at kind of what my goals are, I think hard enduro, and there was an opportunity to let's say Graham Jarvis was going to be in town, and he unfortunately hurt his knee, but he was going to do a clinic up in at this place up north. And, I thought, oh, wow, I'd love to meet Graham Jarvis. I'd love to do one of his classes on hard enduro. And I kind of thought about it. I'm like, for what my goals are right now, I should try to maybe go to this place I'd heard about in North Carolina where you learn how to walk the back end of your bike out on dirt. And, I had to kind of I'm having to make these kind of choices as to, what's going to apply most towards rally, what's going to, and what's not. So that was it's kind of a tough decision, because and actually when I broke down all of what it takes to get to Dakar, I also put in a whole category of what I call threats. And one of the threats was that I let's say, as I'm training, and for example, I've been doing laps on motocross tracks, just to learn how to get speed up and just practice. It's like, what if something becomes more fun than what my original goal is? Well, that to me could be a potential threat. Well, I don't know if hard enduro is going to be my thing, but I will say though, having my rally bike and being up in the North Georgia mountains last weekend, it was confirmed that I really, really love the long distance, grind throughout the day. So
yeah. Well, and I'm with you. And it's interesting because Mason Klein says the same thing. Is like, he's like, I want to fill the bike up, go as far as I can, then fill it up again, and then go even further.
Yes. I just wish I didn't have to come home. I wish I could just keep on going. It'd be great.
Yeah. It's like you want to keep doing that, but obviously we eventually run out of land or something, or the bills come due and you got to turn around.
So let me ask you this: what you were talking about a 690 versus a 501 versus you have a 790 right now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then you said you thought you might want to put together a 690 because it might be the most, I think you were saying, closest to a Rally 450, or what was?
Yeah. So there's been, like, I look at it. So originally KTM, when they changed the rules, the 690 was going to be the rally bike or what. I don't know if it ever made it to it, but I just know that they changed the rules and they said, okay, well, we need a ladder frame. So we're going to bolt a 450 into a 690 frame. So the 690 is still around. It's still the ladder frame that the rally bikes run. Obviously, it's like the ladder frame that they have is a very specific rally build. But the 690 still is at its core is still the rally bike. Is still what the rally bike was. The linkage, the engine. But obviously, it's going to be the engine's a little bit heavier, but now I see it as, okay, it's a little heavier, but you have the horsepower of a race-bred 450 or closer to,
Right.
But you can hang the same exact gas tanks that they use on the rally bikes. You literally buy a rally kit, and to the unassuming, the person that does not know will go, oh, that's a Dakar bike.
Right, yeah.
But the problem I saw with that is like, well, I already have a 790 in the garage. So if I end up building this, then it's like, do I get rid of the 790? And then I don't want a 450 or a 500 because, well, it's kind of close to the 690.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So that was my...
That's the thought process. Yeah, I struggled with that. The 501 versus 690 was a really tough decision. And it's interesting, actually, though, because there's a guy in Australia, Andrew Houlihan, who actually reached out to me. And we could talk about that, too, about how incredible this rally community is. I've had so many guys who've completed Dakar actually reach out to me at this point. But he reached out to me and was talking about the fact that he trains on his 790. And that by the time he hops on the 450, he says it's kind of like, training with a weight vest and ankle weights on, before you run a marathon with that and then go out there and run a marathon without it. One's going to be significantly easier. So he actually is a big advocate of using the 790 for grinding miles, which was surprising to me. I started out with the 300XC kind of as a skills bike, and then I'm biasing a little bit towards between one or the other. I'm going to go with a lighter weight bike, especially because you're putting now bigger tanks and things. But the 690 still, I don't know. It's still a decision that I'm living with my 501 decision. I'm going to stick to it. But there's a part of me that really came close to buying the 690 because I think it's just such an awesome bike, and I love the rear tanks. And like you said, you can build it up to be just identical to the 450 Rally. I think the geometry is a little different. Yeah. And again, Peter Vilcek actually reached out to me and said, you get a 501, you're going to have to do a lot of work to get the engine to be able to be lively enough. And then the 690 is he said is too heavy, but it's kind of tough when you have a lot of different voices coming at you.
Yeah, and and you're absolutely correct because everybody has an opinion on the bike. Yep. Don't do that, do this, and don't do that. And that's probably why there's not a trials bike. And then I think, well, maybe I should get maybe I'll just go get a 2-stroke and go make, we had 2 at the last Baja Rally, we had two people from Texas on 2-strokes. I go, and these guys are going to make the mileage. But like they told me, so well, yeah, as long as you stay out of it, you know, you're not pitting it, the gas mileage is actually all right. You know, it's not as bad as you think it would be.
Wow.
So
someone did Dakar on a 2-stroke. And I didn't. So again, kind of a crazy coincidence. I was at my local shop, and it turned out that a Husqvarna customer had a problem with their bike, that they had flown in a guy from corporate to help them with this, a guy named Scott Spears. And he's been on Dakar, he's been a wrench on, I think 6, I think is what he said. And he actually worked on a team where some guys actually used 2-strokes in Dakar and actually completed it.
Yeah. I mean, wow. I think about it like they've always said, it's the engine is just so much less complicated.
Right.
You know, the 4-strokes, the gas mileage, the torque and everything like that. But if you ride a 2-stroke at the right pace and you can make the distance, well, you just got rid of cams and got rid of, valves and springs and all of these other components that could go bad, across this race. And you got to worry about the oiling and the mixing of it. But now you don't even have to mix the gas. It just mixes it on the fly. So now you got to worry about an oil pump. But one for the other.
Yeah. But it'd be a lot more fun. It sure would be a lot more fun to be on a 2-stroke.
Yeah. But and even talking to you right now, I'm all like, dude, why don't you just, get a 2-stroke. You could put, they make them with stators. You can put a road book on it. And if you're not riding these really long, super long things where you're going to be pushing your fuel mileage, then it's probably not a bad thing. But then again, I live in California, so the only way to connect trails is you're going to have to do some street. And it's generally frowned upon if it doesn't have a license plate. So, yeah. So exactly like you said, there's just, if you sit, it's what's the term? Decision paralysis.
Yes. Yes.
Too many options.
Yeah. And the 501 690 was almost decision paralysis. I was kind of, and even in the 300 XC, when I bought that, it was between that, the XCW and, or do I jump, start with the 690? And I think what I finally did was I said, really I need to find a bike that's going to be a good training bike, that's going to be fun. And everything that I knew about riding 2-strokes, just, it feels light, it feels nimble, and it's fun. And, if I didn't do any of these other things that I'm trying to, pursue, then at least I have a bike that's just awesome and it's a lot of fun. And it just brings a smile to my face to ride that. It's a blast.
Yeah. And that, and like seeing all of the rally, like all of the rally stuff that we have here at our fingertips, is the 501, I feel, is the better weapon for that, or the better suited bike for it, because you could take if you want to just go ride desert, you can easily take the stuff off and then go do it. And then it's light enough and, you don't have to struggle with it. But then it's very, very capable to do the highway or longer liaisons. And then it is capable of having the suspension for the rougher type of stuff, where I feel like the 690 or the newer ones, after talking to somebody else about it, is like, you have to invest a lot of money on the suspension, because Husky and KTM have been doing their best at lowering the seat height.
Oh,
so you're interesting now in exchange for suspension travel. So
okay.
When he brought it to light, I was like, you're absolutely right, because now I walk into the shop and I'm going, that doesn't look that tall. But I remember when the 690s first were coming out, I was like, ooh, I want to go throw a leg on that. Huh. And it's like, I needed a step stool. Right. I was like, and I'm okay with being on the, the tips of my toes on one foot. I usually use only 1 foot down. That's all I care about. And I'm okay with being on the tippy toe part, but this was something a little extra. I'm like, this is the first bike I thought, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm getting a lowered seat for this thing.
Right.
So, I don't know. And I mean, big thumpers down in Baja. I mean, the way the desert is down there, I mean, it's perfect. I mean, look at the XR 650R, was the king of Baja.
Right.
And so they work very well down there and in a lot of places, but it's where they don't, where it's like, if you go down into the sand washer, you got kind of the sketchy downhill, you will always wish you had a lighter bike for that.
Right. Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. And that's the I think the frustrating part on diverse terrain. I mean, even doing the Transamerica Trail, you have these little moments of technical sections that you would love to be able to attack the way you would like to. And, if you're on the road for, most of the TAD is a lot of road. And so you're kind of wishing you were on a big GS, and then all of a sudden you hit these little sections where you wish you were on a small little, 250, 350 or, 500.
Yeah.
And, I think if you have to compromise, and my bias is let's go as light as you always err on the side of lighter, and you won't have a problem. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not an expert, and again, this is just my amateur opinion. So
yeah, but I think at the end of the day, like, it's whatever you feel comfortable on.
Yeah. And this 501's been fantastic. And it's been just I'll be honest with you. When I bought it, I wasn't looking at it as there was not a lot of excitement for owning the 501. I went in with this, I need a bike that's going to do rallies, and I need a bike that's going to carry a tower and some navigation equipment. And so it really felt like a utility to me. I don't have a lot of brand affinity for Husqvarna to begin with. And so, it was weird to be signing, of some finance papers for this bike that I wasn't excited about. And I even told her, I said, I'm just not excited about this bike. What I'm excited about is what it's going to do for me. Really, truly, I think if I could just rent bikes, that'd be better. But no, it was, but once I put the rally tower on it, then I started getting a little more excited, because now I started to see this, this future I'm envisioning for what I want to do unfold. And then as soon as I got it up in the mountains, then it was, it's a whole new relationship with it now. And it's just, I love this bike. It is just so much fun.
Yeah. Well, and and then I guess it was the unknown part of it. I'm buying this tool.
Yes.
Not 100%. Like, I know this tool is meant to do this, but I don't know if this is the right tool, or, there's still that unknown factor, I guess.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, I get, what the other guy was saying, like how you were talking about, like, yeah, training on a 790, and it absolutely makes sense, because the 790 is, 465 pounds or whatever it is. And you're going to learn a lot about balance, and it's because it takes more effort to balance it because of the weight of the bike, but then it's also stable in some cases, and just,
yeah.
But then exactly like what they said, but then you step down and you get on a 500 and you're just like, oh, this is cute, So, but does it really, like, would it really suit its purpose? Would it really be like, okay, yeah, if I can step out a 790, stepping out a 500 where the horsepower to weight ratio is higher, it might take a lot more getting used to, I would think. I don't, there's a ton of stuff, but I think you're in the right spread. Like, yeah, if you said, okay, well, yeah, you know what, I'm going to get the Norden if you really want a Husky, or I'll get an 890 after all this is said and done, and that's just going to be my forever bike, then probably not a bad deal. But otherwise, I really do think that the 690 701 is kind of the graduate.
Yeah.
From the 500. Like, I want to go a little bigger, but I don't want to go full size.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I'm trying to remember who I was speaking with. Again, people have reached out to me. I think it was Lee Clark. He did Sonora this year. Interesting guy. He was doing some work in Atlanta, and I actually met up with him, and just he just gave me the full download on everything. He's also a 501 rider. Did Sonora on the 501. And he actually said that there were moments where he was jealous of the guys on the 690s because the first of all, the speed that they could maintain and the stability of them at high speed. Just the extra weight actually gives them a little bit more stability, kind of on some of these really long, straight, fast, crazy, these crazy speeds that I'm when I just watch, I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't envision. But so again, it's I think there's I think that choice is probably the hardest choice right now in motorcycle purchasing, is that 501 690 thing, especially if you're doing any kind of desert or rally at this point. So
Because I mean, valid point. A skill set is a skill set. So where maybe earlier it was like, yeah, but you get into those downhills and some of those areas where you're like, damn, I wish I had a lighter bike. But if I'm thinking most of the time, it's like, well, balance. Well, if your balance is that much better and your clutch control and your throttle control, then the 50 pounds between a 500 and a 690, you're going to compensate for them in one form or another. But
right.
But I learned this lesson in Baja. My first dirt bike was a 250. And I was like, dude, this thing sucks. That was my very first dirt bike. And it just sucked everywhere because anything I would hit, it felt like it was, then again, rider talent. But it just felt super harsh and just like, but I was like, okay, this is what a dirt bike is supposed to, MAN, it's manly. And it's like, I realized like, this sucks. And then I got a chance to ride a bigger bike. Then I went to a KTM 625. And then it was like riding a couch. And I'm like, why is this so much more fun than a smaller bike?
Huh. Okay.
So I could kind of see that. It's like, if it was a 701 and if it was a 690, you dress it up and yes, it's going to weigh more. It's not the 500. But then in bigger open desert terrain and stuff like that, I could see where it is more stable. And I know that they I've heard the conversations between some of the riders on the 450 rallies, which, on the rally bikes will go. Mm-hmm. And they talk about how they're using fuel levels to compensate. Oh, they'll only run this to this point, and then they'll switch to these tanks. So then it balances the bike out, and they do. So there's some really high level stuff going on to help these bikes feel a lot better. Right. And then now you see I don't know if have you seen one of the Dakar bikes up close yet?
The not up close, not yet.
The 52 millimeter forks on say Skylar House's bike are crazy. Like it's just this fork. Like it's not this little, it dwarfs the little 48 millimeter ones.
Oh my gosh. So the day I sold my KLR, I posted a picture of it going to the new owner. Lyndon reached and I posted the question. I said, what should I get next? The 690 or the 501? Lyndon Poskett reached out and said, no, you need to get the 450 Rally replica. And he goes, PM me and let's talk. And so, I mean, I was starting to, initiate this conversation with him. And unfortunately he had a pretty nasty wreck on the same week of his wedding. And, and I'm like, you know what, I'll leave him alone for a while. But then Coda popped up and I'm like, I need a bike today. I can't, and I mean, where am I going to get the money for a 450 Rally replica? Again, this is, I have no idea where that's going to come from, but, not him and Peter Vilcek. And again, Peter, just we were talking about corner spin and his experiences there. And he, just kind of, he gave me some advice about bike choice. And he was saying, I said, 690 or 501. And he goes, 450 Rally. And I'm like, really? Is it really that different?
Can we please talk about unicorn bikes that do not, or non-unicorn bikes that I can actually get in the States, please?
Yeah. And Nathan Rafferty said the same thing. Like, but I mean, I guess these guys who have them, are going to say that, but it's like, oh wow, we can get someone else to buy one of these.
Yeah. Meanwhile,
meanwhile, it's like, okay, what do I need to sell to do this? But I mean that's going to be, I'm sure, a stretch goal for the next year and a half or so, to try to, either acquire one or gets, and again, the training that I have a deposit down still with Lyndon to do 6 days on the 450 Rally replicas, in Morocco and get a feel for those at that point. And then, it may be that I never actually own one, but I just, if and when, I make it to the starting line of Dakar, I hope it's, it'll probably hopefully be with a support service and rental. I think that's probably the easiest way to get through it the first time. Wolfie basically said that don't do Malimoto, you'll hate yourself.
Yeah, we were talking about that. You'll hear the episode this coming Sunday about it, but there was a conversation about that, and I definitely agree with what he's saying because too many moving pieces. You won't get a chance you'll be under so much constant pressure of, okay, now I got to do this. Now I got to do that. Now I got to do that. Right. Where, yes, going supported is more expensive. But at the same time, your mental, it's like being in that job that just, you know what, I make a great amount of money, but I want to ring, you know, I question my life choices when I wake up in the morning. That's what I feel like going as Malamode. Now, later on, like, okay, once you get the Dakar learning curve out of it and what, you know, dealing with the organization and the day to day and all of that stuff. And then you go, okay, now I'm going to go do this cowboy class. Then I could see that. But yeah, I feel like supported is the way to go first time around.
I would think so too. And I actually, Andrew Houlihan also mentioned the same thing. He said, you know, you want to be supported if you want to have a chance of success on this. And he says, you're putting so much investment in. And actually, I think it was Peter Vilcek who also said, you know, expect really to spend about $160,000 to complete Dakar, you know, with the preliminary races, with, you know, training, everything that's leading up to that for the next few years. Go ahead and just, you know, write off $160,000. And it's just like, I'm kind of going, well, you know, I'm not really sure I'm going to get that, but, you know, I'm operating a little bit on faith at this point. I mean, just even for this Coda Rally, a friend of mine stepped up and, you know, wants to throw a little bit of sponsorship money at me. And, you know, I'm going to have a graphics kit with his company name on my bike. You know, it's so, I mean, little things like that. I'm operating, like I said, just a little bit on faith that, you know, when the time comes for me to be able to make an attempt at Dakar, I'll be able to do it. But in the meantime, the rally itself is just so much fun. I mean, and I will have another interpretation of it, I'm sure, 3 weeks from now, you know?
Yeah. So. Well, and, you know, yeah, you're right. It's like, at least how I would kind of see it is like, you know what, even if it was like thinking about it right now, going, damn, 160K. Yeah, I couldn't do it. But even if you made it halfway, and even if you made it to the point where I was like, oh yeah, you know, and then Dakar says, yeah, sorry, you need a little more experience, whatever it could be. The journey all the way there to that point is further than most, because most people are still on the couch. But not only that, but it's just like all the people you met, all the training you did, all the places you got to see, all of the, you know, the people, even the people. I would, even if I wasn't, or I don't race rally, but damn, I love hanging out in the bivouacs and just listening to the stories and being at the finish line with Rally Comp, being like, listening to all these guys about how they battled in, or watching people come in with broken bikes and still, you know, making it happen. And yeah. So.
I mean, it's an interesting, that's an interesting thing, a mindset thing about, and when I started this, you know, initially, you know, Dakar was sort of, to me, not a goal. It was just a North Star, let's call it. And it was like, okay, this is the thing that's going to get me out of the couch. It's going to get me to the doctor to get my knees checked. I'm going to go to a cardiologist, you know, kind of start getting the fitness baseline and start trying to kind of rebuild myself back up to kind of what I used to be when I used to race mountain bikes. And you know, there was a point in which I thought, okay, you know, if I don't complete Dakar, at least I'll, you know, fill in the blank with a dozen different benefits, right? And it's sort of a, you know, that's it's sort of a fallback position that we tend to do. And kind of with the startups that I used to do, there would be sort of an attitude of, well, you know, if this doesn't work, then we can at least this product could be, and it seems like everyone who ever says that, they get the lower, they don't get the goal. They get what, you know, the compensate, that sort of, what's the right word to describe it? They're getting what they, the fallback position. Yeah. And so I've been trying to be really careful about telling myself that really I want to, you know, ride my bike across that stage and get that medal. You know, of course, then the question is, then what? You know, it's like we did the cannonball and we set that record. And it's like, you know, we got on the plane and we're like, well, you know, now what? And, you know, and so, you know, never in a million years did I think it was going to be, you know, Dakar, but good Lord, you know, it just got into my head. I couldn't get it out. But I mean, so I, you know, but all those other benefits, yeah, absolutely. And if it takes a little bit longer to get there, 2025, 26, you know, I just keep on grinding towards it and just having fun and, you know, making sure I have fun in the process.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, but like it's the investment now for the future later. You know, it's like, okay, well, I'm doing all of this stuff. So yeah. So when I get there, I'll be better with road books. I'll be better on my game with, with riding days, because the days are super long. And I laugh because, like working at Baja Rally, like we used to get, when I was there, it was like, oh, it's a 300 kilometer liaison. And everybody's like, 300 kilometers of liaison, and it's not even race. And then we hear the Dakar, and it's like, oh yeah, it's a 600 kilometer liaison.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
ridiculous.
And you guys were complaining about this. So it's like, you're slowly building up to it. And I can just right now I can see is like, okay, you get up there, you get the stage, you get your medal, and that's what's next. I think that this sport is like one of those, like, all right, I'm going to turn around and I want to help the next guys get there and share my journey and everything that I did to get here, because it is hard.
Yeah. Well, I mean, from a skill standpoint, of course there's the, I need to make a good relationship with desert riding and handling sand dunes and things like that. But at the end of the day, what it is I want to have enough skill to be able to finish each day fast enough to recover. That's the fundamental skill. I don't know if did you watch any of the Dakar this year on the app on the map, with little dots moving around. I mean, because I was following Skylar the whole way, just completely cheering him on. But I kept watching Skylar, but then I'd see at the very back of the pack this little dot that was behind everybody every single day. And, this guy, I'm like, who the heck is this guy? And I finally clicked on it. It's a guy from James Alexander from South Africa, I think Botswana maybe. Anyway, this guy just grinded out 17-hour days, and he was doing Malimoto. I think it was his first Dakar. I mean, this guy was a beast. And it was like, I could not help but, be almost more excited for him than I was for Skylar. But oh my gosh, I mean, that was quite the inspiration to watch this guy just grind his way through Dakar. And oh my gosh.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right, because you have to, it's time management. Like in talking with Justin and Kira from West by 1000, right? They do media coverage for Dakar, and they've been doing that for a few years now, and their schedule. And one of the biggest things that stuck out to me that they talked about was the time suck. How, okay, well, I'm going to go from my bivouac to the mess hall, and I'm going to go get food. Well, there's an hour, and then, okay, now I'm going to go to okay, well, there's another 45 minutes, and then I'm going to go do this. And then that's a very valid point, and really hadn't thought about it to now, but the goal should be to finish far enough or fast enough to allow yourself some time to recuperate.
Yes.
And ride. I mean, and that's, I think, where like the stuff that Jimmy Lewis is teaching is like ride efficiently.
Right. Yeah. So, I think, Jimmy will teach you to ride in a way where you come in still feeling like you could go another few more hours. But I mean, if you can be fast enough, and that's the thing I worry about, is I don't feel like I've really developed the speed, or it's still, I get a little bit scared at higher speeds, but, but yeah, I think that's it, be able to have enough time to recuperate and reset for the next day and get your fluids in. And that was actually something, when I met with Lee Clark, he, said that, his girlfriend was with him at the time, and he would come in, hand his bike off to his mechanic, and he would sit down on a chair. She'd give him cold towels, massage, and, hand him waters, all of that stuff. And again, that's just that's time he doesn't have to walk around and get a water himself. That's time, and he said that having just that kind of a person there is the most invaluable thing that you can have at a rally. He said that if he goes to Dakar, I don't know what it costs to have someone like that, a family member in the bivouacs. I think it's almost as much as it costs if you were doing Malimoto. I think it's in the $10,000 to $15,000 range to have them there. He said it's 100% worth it. Yeah. He said just from a pure standpoint of having that moment to just kind of shift gears into something that someone else taking care of you after you've spent the entire day just fighting. So
yeah, and like I said, even if it's 10 minutes, and it's only a few, the little things, and sometimes it's the stuff like I've been, formerly racing in off-road in desert cars and stuff like that. It was the reminders to drink water. It was the, hey, I need an Advil. And instead of you stressing out trying to find it, it's there for you.
Right.
And that, I think that if this was a 3-day event, it'd be another deal. Or if it was a 4-day event, it would be another. If it was 6 days, it would be a deal. But, now it's, half a month, it used to be almost a full month.
Right.
Yeah. And it's funny as you said that, I'm looking it up because I had seen a number similar to what you're talking about. I think it was like $10,000 to volunteer. I'm like, wait, what? When I saw it, I don't know.
Man, that's a good business to be in if you can get volunteers who pay you.
Yeah, to pay you $10K to go. Like, yep. I mean, do I get the special underwear with the logo on it, or I mean, because that's a lot of coin. I'll have to look it up, but yeah, it's I was surprised, but you're right. Having your support team is just going to be that much more critical with a long day. And you know what? It's not on day 2. It's not on day 3. It's day 4. It's day 5. It's the first day you come into the bivouac saying today sucked.
Right.
And you're at that point where it's time to start blowing bubbles. That's where I think that having that extra person, you would have paid double to have them there.
Yeah, exactly. From that
point on,
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know.
Cool.
That'll be good. But awesome. So I've learned a lot. So I'm on your website and I see there's a pretty rad website. You got everything broken down, real nice and neat. You got your story on there and everything. Where can people go to support you and help your efforts?
It's CouchToDakar.com. Mm-hmm. And same with social media, CouchToDakar. I think even on my website, it's couch with number 2 Dakar and also CouchToDakar.com. So that's it's funny. I put a GoFundMe up there because I had a friend actually say that he would like to donate something, and it's been kind of amazing because I've actually had a few people already just drop money in there, and it's like, guys, I'm not really ready to start taking this. This other friend of mine also is like, yeah, I'm not quite ready to be taking any money at this point. I want to wait until I'm a little bit closer to actually having the big expenses of Dakar. I want that effort to be funded. I want the goal to be funded because I think that's what's going to be, and I will probably start to do some pretty big campaigns for a little bit more. It's been real. The gratitude though. I mean, it's just amazing that people have come out of the woodwork from friends of mine who've said, man, he goes, what you're doing is so inspiring to me. I'm at this point in my life too, where it's like, I really need to find that thing. They're like, I think something, when you turn 50, there's this, something happens where I don't know if it's you feel like the timer's running out or something, or you're just in this place, I think, where you really want to try to make another push for something and keep yourself going instead of just coasting in, till retirement or something. But, so that makes me really happy. I mean, that's really why I wanted to make that website and document kind of everything I'm doing. And, cause I feel like I have these 5, I call them my 5 pillars. And one of them is people. And, in that group of people, along with sponsors and others, there are, just someone who reaches out to me and says, hey, you're inspiring me. That's the person I'm going to think of when I'm out in the desert, with the front wheel, 2 feet into some of that, fesh, and I'm just wanting to quit. That's where, that's what I'm going to dig into. It's like this, there's people out there who want to see me keep pushing as hard as I can. And when I do kind of a bigger push at some point, the way I was thinking about it was, wow, if I could just, get, a number of people who will just pay a very small amount of money to watch a, 50-year-old guy suffer in the desert, hey, awesome.
Yeah. Well, and it's everything. It's maybe it's enough for the plane tickets, or it's enough for this, or it's enough for that. But either way, and like I said, I mean, already something that I hadn't looked at or thought about it that way, but it's very true how you're doing it and how you're looking at it. It's like, okay, well, if you needed an excuse to go see the doctor about, certain health conditions, if it's an excuse that you needed to get out of the house and go do something else, there's all these little things that are residual and the quote unquote side effects of this goal.
Absolutely. And yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that's and what it has done is it's created somewhat of a framework for all the decisions that I make right now. And that actually makes life a lot easier. It's like when I choose what I'm going to eat. Well, I just look at what do I need to do for this goal, what am I going to do? Go work out this morning, or am I going to sleep in? Same thing. It's made, I'd say, life a lot simpler. And I just moved into an apartment that's smaller, and it's kind of that whole downsizing. I'm an empty nester. It's kind of clearing the plate a little bit, and then having this framework also. It's really been I feel very fortunate right now to kind of have this and have it actually inform kind of each of my decisions, and still have it. I'd say I care about myself. Which I'd say 3 years ago I really didn't. I just sitting around playing video games and watching TV and just really kind of rotting. Kind of like, and the whole time I'm sitting there going, why am I doing this? Why am I letting myself go like this? This is stupid. Mm-hmm. And to now have something that kind of pulls me out of that and has me start let's give it a good run. Or die trying. I don't want to say that with this particular sport.
Correct.
I mean, yes, of course, my mom, of course, wants me to, she's like, why aren't you playing golf? It's like, or the radiologist who said I was too old to ride motorcycles. I've never wanted to jump up and punch someone more than when he said that.
Hey,
I don't know if you saw that picture on Instagram of the X-rayed middle finger.
Oh, okay. So that's the backstory on that.
That's the backstory. I literally was because I thought I'd broken my wrist, and I'd gone X-ray, and the guy said, "You're too old to be riding motorcycles." And I was just like, "Well, here's something that you could probably read a little better is this." And I'm now going to dedicate every injury I have to anyone anyone over 50 who decides to try to do something other than sit on their ass.
Yeah, I mean it's yeah. It's funny. I went through some training a long time ago, and they always asked me. Or they always said, so the last question you want to ask somebody is why. And because when you ask that, it accesses this thing in the brain that puts you into defense mode. And so for this, it's the same thing. It's like, well, why would you want to do that? Why would you? Well, why not? And I think it's along those lines. It's like, I'm not here for discouragement. I'm here because I need you to help me fix this part. I'm here to see you for this knowledge, not your opinion as to what I'm going to do once this is better,
Exactly.
So nice. All right. So yeah, we'll get, so I'm going to get some links in the description on this and at least get some exposure onto the website and have people follow you. Cause I think this is going to be a pretty awesome journey. I mean, it was your social media that encouraged me to reach out. I was like looking at it and I go, when I saw the Instagram, I'll CouchToDakar. Well, that's pretty catchy. So I was like, let's see what he's up to. And then I started following and I'm like, cool. I saw all the training and all this stuff. So I was like, this is a story because there's a lot of people that want to do what you're doing and they just don't know where to start. They're not, just don't have an idea, which is normal. We all started at some point somewhere with something on that. And so this is great. I mean, I think you really are going to be an inspiration to a lot of people, and you've put it in terms where people I think will understand and get the hang of it. Like, hey, this is how you just got to put everything in a box and check the boxes. So. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I'd like to keep doing a little more. I want to do a YouTube channel and try to actually, make it less scattered little bits and pieces on Instagram and Facebook, and actually try to make some cohesive content about it. It's just that's a timing wise, it's prioritization. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's talk about time sucks. Is trying to get get all the right hashtags, get all the right stuff. What time should I release this at? That's all.
But yeah, no, this is fantastic. And I mean, just landing on your podcast was amazing because it happened right, I would say like mid-July. And I mean, actually it was 3 days before the deadline for Coda Rally, which I think was the 27th July, and I was like, oh my God, there's an entire podcast on rally. What the heck? Why didn't I know about this? And because I've been following Mason and some of these other people, and then to land on this, it was just like I just started binging while I was on a holiday in Florida. And, it was, I kept hearing this Coda Rally get, mentioned, and it's like, oh my God, okay, there's 2 days left to register for this thing. Like, could I really pull this together? And I immediately signed up and I got accepted. And I was like, oh my God, it's not full. Okay, cool. Okay, well, crap, I gotta get a bike. Okay, well, let's go. Time to just, let's just do this thing at this point and throw ourselves in. So, we'll see how it turns out. I mean, this might, I don't know if this would have been more interesting or less interesting after the Coda.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Well, we'll definitely touch base. But
awesome.
I have one question before we go. Does your apartment complex know there's a dirt bike in your living room?
Please don't tell them this.
We are not talking to Dave Black right now, ladies and gentlemen, in case you were wondering.
They do not know about this being in the apartment. I sneak I have my parking deck I'm on the third floor. And so the parking deck, actually, I have a door just around the corner. Mm-hmm. And so I'll have my girlfriend, she'll hold the door for me and she'll scout it out and say, you can give me the nod. And I kind of sneak it in and then work it around. And I get to where the intersection and the hallways are. And it's tile floors. It's an outside, it's partially outside a little bit, so it's not like I'm inside of a nice carpeted hallway. But she'll look down the other hallway and say, "Okay, coast is clear," and then she'll go and open up the other door for me, and I sneak it in. And but I do have a storage unit where I keep these things. It's just that if I'm doing maintenance, it's just so much nicer just to be able to work in the kitchen.
Yeah, cook dinner and clean a dash or two, or
exactly
remove a road book.
Exactly.
Nice, very nice. Well, Dave, I appreciate you taking the time. I know you're on the West Coast, or I'm on the West Coast. You're on the East Coast, so it's probably getting close to quitting.
9 o'clock. Yeah, it's all good. So, yep, awesome.
But I appreciate it. Yeah, I'll get some links up, and then I'll send you an email as soon as the episode lands with the link, so you can share that and have your buddies listen in.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm excited to, I'm just excited to share this with the rest of the world. Just this post I made on Facebook the other day actually explained what I'm all doing, and people are like, what? There's this sport where anyway, so it's really great what you're doing. I think rally's going to pick up in America. I think we've got, hey, soccer's becoming popular here. So I think anything can happen at this point.
There we go. That's the sign. That is the sign. All right, sir. Well, you have a great evening. And we'll be in touch.
All right. Thanks. Awesome. We'll talk to you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. So there you have it. Talking to Dave Black from CouchToDakar. CouchToDakar being his Instagram handle, and very awesome. I really like the idea of how he's kind of breaking everything up, and it's just like, okay, well, here's the end goal. And I'm just getting started, but I know I need to do this, and I need to do this, and I need to do this, and just kind of really just getting things going. So I'm absolutely stoked. I really want to see where this journey goes. I'm looking at the bike, and what he's built. I'm on his Instagram right now, at CouchToDakar, and just seeing some of the stuff that he's riding on and some of the stuff that he's doing. And this is pretty awesome. So I am definitely looking forward to him doing some damage out there and getting out there and having fun and making it happen. There's I see where he built the Moto-Minded Tower, and nice. So yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Definitely throw him a follow. So I'm going to put in the description what his Instagram is, and let's get some more followers. I know we got a broad audience across the world, and so I would love to see some people headed his way and follow on his journey. And then, maybe we'll check in with him after the Coda Rally and see how that went, some road book experience. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. You'll be hearing this soon enough. And don't forget to share, like, follow, all of that fun stuff, because that is how we are going to get this thing to grow. So I really appreciate everybody tuning in. And like I said, we're worldwide, which is beyond me, which is awesome, and absolutely stoked about that. So I am looking forward to keeping this going. And the list of guests is even longer than it's ever been. So I am absolutely looking forward to this, getting some more people on here and talking about their experiences, maybe sharing some knowledge, or sharing knowledge for sure, and including a new kind of series that I want to start. So stay tuned for more. All right, that is a wrap for the Chasing Waypoints podcast this week. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you like what you heard. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and a bunch of others. Also, follow us on social media. You can find us on Facebook under Chasing Waypoints, Instagram Chasing Waypoints _official, and of course, the YouTube under Chasing Waypoints. Hope everybody has a good week. We will see you guys for the next episode. Remember, shiny side up, and don't forget to tag us. We want to see where you guys are riding and what you guys are up to. Have a great week.